He came to tell his truth. He didn't expect his story to be questioned. There were no raised voices at first, no insults, no chaos, just one calm host, and one prince who slowly realized this wasn't a room he could control. By the end of the night, Prince Harry would walk off a live set, and Bill Maher would quietly tell producers to cut the feed. Before we begin, if you enjoy intense, real conversations where power, ego, and truth collide, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more stories that go deeper than headlines. Now, let's begin. The set of Real Time with Bill Maher was never warm. It wasn't built for comfort. 2 chairs, a small table, no soft couches, no fake smiles from a house band. Just glass, shadows, and Los Angeles glowing behind them like a silent witness. Prince Harry adjusted his jacket as the cameras went live. He looked calm, trained. This wasn't his first difficult interview. He'd survived British tabloids, royal correspondence, parliamentary hearings, and global headlines. Tonight, he told himself, was just another conversation. Bill Maher leaned back casually, hands folded, eyes alert. "Prince Harry," Bill said evenly. "Welcome?" "Thank you," Harry replied with a polite nod. The audience applauded briefly, then silence returned. Bill didn't rush. "You've spoken a lot about breaking free," Bill began, "about escaping what you've described as a suffocating system." Harry nodded. "That's right. And you've said the price of that freedom was enormous." Harry exhaled. It was. The first minutes felt smooth. Harry talked about mental health, about generational trauma, about choosing family over institution, healing, boundaries, truth, words he had refined over years. Bill listened, didn't interrupt, didn't challenge. That made Harry uneasy. Bill finally tilted his head. "There's something I keep wondering about." Harry looked up. "Sure. You talk about escaping privilege," Bill said calmly. "But you escaped it with a Netflix deal, a memoir, and a global platform." A low murmur moved through the audience. Harry stiffened slightly. "Well," he said carefully, "having a platform doesn't erase pain." Bill nodded. "True, but wealth changes how pain is received." Harry frowned. "I don't follow." Bill leaned forward just an inch. "When someone born into unimaginable privilege says, 'I was silenced,' people listen, but they also ask, 'By whom?'" Harry shifted in his chair. "The institution," he said. "The press, the expectations." Bill nodded again. "But you weren't silenced," Bill said. "You were edited." A ripple passed through the crowd. Harry's jaw tightened. "With respect, Bill, that feels dismissive." Bill lifted a hand gently. "Not dismissive, distinct. Being silenced means having no voice. You had one of the loudest voices on earth. What you didn't have was control." Harry leaned forward. "Control over my own life is exactly what was denied." Bill didn't argue. "That may be," he said. "But when control becomes the goal, the story starts feeling less like freedom and more like narrative management." Harry's eyes flashed. "So now my experience is branding?" Bill replied smoothly. "No, I'm saying it became one." Harry laughed once, not amused. "I didn't ask for this scrutiny." Bill tilted his head. "No, but you monetized it." A sharp intake of breath echoed from somewhere in the audience. Harry crossed his arms. "That's unfair." Bill shrugged. "Is it? Book deals, streaming deals, speaking tours, all built around one message. Here's what they did to me." Harry's voice hardened. "You don't get to define my healing." Bill's expression sharpened. "I'm not defining your healing," he said. "I'm questioning your business model." The words landed heavy. Harry leaned back, arms still crossed. "This is exactly the problem," he said. "People like you think trauma has a proper aesthetic." Bill replied instantly. "No, I think trauma becomes dangerous when it turns into identity." The studio went completely silent. Harry stared at Bill, and for the first time since he'd walked on stage, he didn't answer right away, because something had shifted. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a dismantling, and they were only getting started. Harry uncrossed his arms slowly, not in surrender, in preparation. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. fingers interlaced, like he was about to explain something painfully obvious to someone who simply didn't get it. "You're framing this like I orchestrated my own exile," he said, "like I woke up one day and thought, let's blow up my entire life for a book deal." Bill didn't react. He waited. Harry took the silence as permission. "I lost my home, my relationship with my family, my sense of safety, and you're sitting there, reducing that to revenue streams." Bill nodded once. "I'm not reducing your pain," he said calmly. "I'm questioning how it's packaged," Harry scoffed. "That's such an American way to look at it." Bill raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "You turn everything into transactions," Harry replied. "Even suffering." Bill leaned back slightly. "No, we turn patterns into questions." Harry shook his head. "This is exactly why people don't speak up." Bill met his gaze. "People speak up all the time. You just happen to do it with a global megaphone." A few quiet laughs slipped out of the audience. Harry didn't laugh. "You think I enjoy this?" he asked. "Being dissected? Being turned into some kind of case study?" Bill answered immediately. "No, I think you've learned how to survive it." Harry paused. "And survival," Bill added, "can become addictive." The room shifted. Harry blinked. "That's ridiculous?" Bill shrugged. "Is it?" Harry straightened. "You left out a key detail," he said. "I didn't choose fame. I was born into it." Bill nodded. "Exactly." Harry frowned. "So how does that make any of this my fault?" Bill leaned forward. "It doesn't, but it does change the context." Harry's jaw tightened. "So now my birth invalidates my trauma." Bill shook his head. "No, it contextualizes it." Harry laughed sharply. "Must be nice to sit there and psychoanalyze someone else's life." Bill replied evenly. "Must be nice to have the world listening every time you exhale." The audience murmured. Harry leaned forward again. "You keep talking like I'm some kind of manipulator." Bill tilted his head. "I think you're someone who hasn't figured out who he is without opposition." Harry stared. "That's absurd," Bill continued. "You left an institution you hated, but everything you say still begins with it." Harry's voice rose. "Because it never lets go." Bill didn't miss the opening. "Or because you don't." Harry froze. For half a second, the prince looked genuinely caught. Then the defensiveness snapped back into place. "You have no idea what it's like to be hunted by the press," Harry said. Bill nodded. "True." "You don't know what it's like to have your wife ripped apart online." Bill nodded again. "Also true." Harry pressed harder. "You don't know what it's like to grow up watching your mother die because cameras wouldn't leave her alone." The audience went silent. Bill's expression changed, not hostile. Serious. Careful. "I won't argue that," Bill said quietly. Harry seized the moment. "So maybe don't sit there pretending you understand." Bill held his gaze. "And maybe don't use her memory as armor." The words hit harder than any insult. Harry blinked. "What did you just say?" Bill stayed calm. "Your mother deserves better than being deployed every time a question gets uncomfortable." A sharp gasp rippled through the room. Harry stood halfway up from his chair. "How dare you?" Bill didn't rise. "How dare you?" Bill replied, voice steady. "Turn grief into a shutdown button." Harry's breathing became visible. "You think this is a game?" Harry snapped. "No," Bill said. "I think it's tragic." Harry shook his head. "You hide behind cynicism." Bill smiled faintly. "Cynicism is just optimism with experience." A few nervous laughs escaped. Harry didn't join them. "You reduce everything to narratives," Harry said. "Victim, hero, villain." Bill replied instantly. "Frameworks help us see patterns," Harry shot back. "No, frameworks help you avoid responsibility." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Harry ran a hand through his hair. "I wanted freedom," he said. Bill nodded. "And yet your entire identity still orbits what you escaped." Harry's voice cracked. "Because it never stops following me." Bill leaned forward. "Or because it still defines you." Harry straightened fully. "You don't get to tell me who I am." Bill met his eyes. "No, but I get to ask." Harry laughed bitterly. "And what exactly are you asking?" Bill didn't hesitate. If tomorrow the cameras stopped, the books stopped selling, the interviews stopped, who would you be? Harry opened his mouth, closed it. The silence felt endless. I'd still be me, Harry said finally. Bill smiled faintly. Would you? Harry's jaw tightened. You're turning this into entertainment. Bill shook his head. No, you already did. I'm just asking why. Harry stood, not storming, not shouting, just standing, his shoulders stiff, his face flushed. This is exactly why I left, Harry said quietly. This obsession with tearing people apart under the guise of truth. Bill stood too, slowly. Truth isn't tearing someone down, Bill replied. It's refusing to lie to them. Harry shook his head. You can keep your truth. He picked up his microphone, held it for a moment, then set it gently back on the chair. I'm done. The audience gasped. Harry turned away. But before he could take a step, Bill spoke one last time. Harry. Harry stopped. If your story only exists while you're telling it, Bill said softly, was it ever really about healing? Harry didn't answer. He just stood there, and everyone in the room knew this wasn't over yet. Harry was still standing, not pacing, not shouting, just standing there, jaw tight, eyes fixed somewhere beyond Bill, beyond the audience, like he was already halfway gone. The host's voice cut in carefully from off camera. Harry, let's just sit back down. Harry raised one hand. No. The word was quiet, but it carried weight. Bill remained seated, calm, still, unmoved. You asked who I'd be without cameras, Harry said, turning back toward Bill. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with fury held on a leash. You ask who I am if the story ends. Bill nodded once. I did. Harry swallowed. What you don't understand, Harry continued, is that this story doesn't end because people like you won't let it. Bill leaned forward slightly. Or, he said evenly, because you won't. Harry laughed sharply. You sit there behind irony and intellect, pretending you've cracked the code of human suffering. Bill didn't interrupt. You reduce everything to narratives, Harry went on. Victim, hero, villain, like real lives fit into neat frameworks. Bill finally spoke. Frameworks help us see patterns, Harry shot back. No, frameworks help you avoid responsibility. The audience shifted uncomfortably. You want to know why I keep talking? Harry said, pointing at the floor between them. Because silence is what protected them. Silence is what killed my mother. A gasp rippled through the room. Bill's expression changed, serious now. Don't do that, Bill said quietly. Do what? Harry snapped. Turn her into a shield, Bill replied. She deserves better than that. Harry's eyes widened. How dare you? Bill held his gaze. How dare you use her memory to shut down any question that makes you uncomfortable? The studio felt frozen in time. You don't get to decide how I grieve, Harry said, voice shaking. No, Bill answered, but I get to ask when grief becomes a brand. That sentence detonated the room. Harry took a step back as if physically struck. That's disgusting, he said. It's uncomfortable, Bill corrected. There's a difference. Harry ran both hands through his hair. You think this is funny? No, Bill said. I think it's tragic. Harry scoffed. You sit there protected by cynicism, while people like me actually try to change things. Bill smiled faintly. Cynicism is just optimism with experience. Harry didn't laugh. You want honesty? Harry said suddenly. Fine, I'm angry, I'm exhausted. And yes, maybe I don't know who I am without all of this. The audience went silent. Bill didn't gloat, he simply nodded. That, he said softly, is the first real thing you've said tonight. Harry stared at him. Something drained from his face, not anger, clarity. I didn't come here to be dissected, Harry said. No one ever does, Bill replied. Harry turned toward the audience. This, he said, gesturing around the studio, is exactly why I left. This obsession with tearing people apart under the guise of truth. Bill stood up now, not confrontational, just meeting him eye to eye. Truth isn't tearing someone down, Bill said. It's refusing to lie to them. Harry shook his head. You can keep your truth. He reached down, picked up the microphone, held it for a moment, then placed it carefully back on the chair. The gesture was louder than any scream. "I'm done." He turned and started walking. The camera followed him halfway before cutting wide. Too late to hide it. The sound of his shoes echoed unnaturally across the floor. The door closed. The studio stayed silent. No applause, no murmurs, just stunned stillness. Bill slowly sat back down. He didn't look victorious. He looked thoughtful. "Sometimes," Bill said quietly, "the hardest conversations are the ones people walk away from." The audience clapped hesitantly, uneasy. Backstage, producers were already scrambling. Headlines were writing themselves. But out on that stage, one truth had settled over everyone. Harry hadn't walked away because he was offended. He walked away because the questions had gone somewhere he couldn't control, and everyone could feel it. The door Harry had walked through hadn't fully closed. He stopped halfway down the edge of the set, not dramatically, not theatrically. He just paused. The audience waited. So did Bill Maher. Harry turned back. His face was flushed now, jaw tight, eyes sharp with something between anger and humiliation. "You don't get to reduce my life to talking points," Harry said loudly. "You don't get to sit there and dismantle me like I'm some political theory." Bill stayed seated, calm. "Harry," Bill replied evenly, "you walked onto a political talk show." Harry scoffed. "I came here to explain my truth." Bill nodded. "And you did, for almost an hour." Harry stepped closer to the chair again. "But what you actually did," Bill continued, "was talk down to everyone in this room." Harry laughed bitterly. "Oh, please." Bill gestured toward the audience. "You dismissed ordinary people. You treated struggle like a hierarchy. And every time something got uncomfortable, you reached for status." Harry snapped back. "Because I have status." Bill didn't blink. "That's the problem." Harry pointed. "You think you're brave because you ask questions?" Bill replied calmly. "No, I think I'm doing my job." Harry's voice rose. "And what about Meghan?" The room stiffened. Bill tilted his head. "What about her?" Harry's tone sharpened. "You've dragged her through this entire conversation without even saying her name. You people always do that. You attack my wife indirectly and pretend it's intellectual." Bill leaned forward slightly. "No," Bill said. "People question your wife because she positioned herself as a moral authority while operating like a brand." The audience murmured. Harry exploded. "You have no idea what she's been through," Bill answered instantly. "Neither do most people," Harry shouted. "And yet you all judge her anyway." Bill stood now, not aggressively, deliberately. "And yet, she keeps selling her story." Harry stepped forward. "Because silence protects abusers." Bill's voice dropped lower. "And repetition protects relevance." The words landed like concrete. Harry froze. His chest rose and fell. "You think we enjoy this?" Harry demanded. "Being dissected, being mocked, being reduced to headlines?" Bill held his gaze. "No," he said. "I think you've learned how to weaponize it." Harry stared. "You're disgusting." Bill shook his head. "No, I'm honest." Harry laughed sharply. "You sit here in comfort while we actually fight systems." Bill replied immediately. "You left one system and built another." Harry clenched his fists. "You don't get to decide that." Bill crossed his arms. "The public does." Harry looked around the room, eyes darting. "And what about compassion?" Harry shouted. "What about empathy?" Bill gestured toward the audience. "These people have empathy." Then back at Harry. "You just don't like it when it comes with questions." Harry stepped back from the chair. "You're turning this into entertainment." Bill shook his head. "You already did. I just stopped protecting you from it." Harry's voice cracked. "You've crossed a line." Bill nodded. "That line was crossed the moment you started treating everyone else like they were beneath you." Harry stood frozen. Then he said quietly, "I don't need this." Bill nodded again. "That part we agree on." Harry turned toward the exit, but Bill spoke one last time. "Harry?" Harry stopped. "You don't get to walk in here, belittle people, dodge accountability, and then play wounded prince." Harry turned slowly. Bill continued. "If you want respect, you start by giving it." Harry stared at him, then shook his head. "You know what? I'm done. Bill didn't argue. He simply turned slightly toward the producers. We're wrapping, Bill said calmly. Harry blinked. What? Bill looked back at him. This segment is over. Harry laughed in disbelief. You're cutting me off? Bill nodded. Yes. Harry's voice went sharp. You're throwing me out? Bill replied evenly. I'm ending the interview. Harry looked around wildly. You can't do that. Bill met his eyes. It's my show. Security appeared quietly at the edge of the set. Not rushing, not dramatic. Harry stared at them. This is unbelievable. Bill spoke clearly. You've been hostile. You've been dismissive. And you've treated this room with contempt. Harry pointed at Bill. You'll regret this. Bill answered softly. Maybe. Then louder. But I won't lie for you. The guard stepped closer. Harry straightened his jacket, trying to recover dignity that had already slipped away. He walked toward the exit, slow, controlled, but everyone could see the tension in his shoulders. At the doorway, Harry turned back one last time. This isn't over. Bill didn't move. It usually is, he said. The door closed. The studio sat in stunned silence. Bill returned to his chair. He exhaled, then looked out at the audience. Well, he said quietly, that was intense. A few uncertain claps, then more. Not celebration, acknowledgement. Bill leaned forward. For the record, he said, I didn't want him to leave. He paused. But sometimes people don't walk away because they're offended. They walk away because the questions went somewhere they couldn't control. The audience absorbed it. And somewhere outside that studio, headlines were already forming. Prince Harry storms off real time. Bill Maher confronts royal entitlement. A duke meets a microphone he can't dominate. But inside that room, the truth was simpler. Harry didn't lose his temper. He lost control. And Bill Maher didn't raise his voice. He just refused to look away. And that's the thing about rooms like this. They don't expose titles. They don't expose fame. They expose character. Some people walk in expecting control. Others stay grounded and ask the hard questions. One walked out. The other stayed seated, because real power doesn't shout, and truth doesn't need permission.